What happens is that oftentimes when we go through a sleep challenge, naturally so, we reach out to other people and we ask them. We say, hey, I'm going through some sleep challenges. This is what I'm going through. What has helped you? And so we do that. We reach out for help, which is a really good thing. You want to reach out for help. But then what happens, and this happens with, I believe it's a good intention. What happens is that when people respond to you, rather than asking you questions that are actually going to help you sleep, they basically just say what works for them. And the issue and the problem with that is that what may work for them may not work for you. So as a result, you will try something that they said, and then you find yourself right back at the beginning realizing, well, I tried what they said, but it didn't necessarily help. And the reason that this happens is because we don't fully and thoroughly evaluate our situation. There's a number of very important questions to ask ourselves as we are facing sleep challenges so that we can get to the root of our sleep challenge and understand what is happening. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to review with you some questions that you can begin asking yourself to find out what your sleep journey has been and possibly what the root cause is. Now, I am not a doctor. I am a holistic coach. I also train professionals. I've been training professionals for over 15 years internationally. So I've been training them how to show up as certified sleep coaches to help others. So I will say that. But what I do is I collaborate and I work alongside with doctors because I'm not sure how many of you know this, but did you know that the average doctor, unless they get additional training outside of medical school, the average doctor only receives anywhere from 0 to 4 hours of sleep education in medical school. And that sleep education is centered around the medical aspects. It's not centered around health and lifestyle. It's not looking at how an individual functions on a day-to-day basis to understand what might be getting in the way of sleep. So as a result, your doctor will try to help you and maybe they will provide you prescription medications and they'll tell you some other things, but they don't necessarily, again, unless they've gone above and beyond to study more about it, they don't necessarily go into the day-to-day. Sometimes it can be even our own thoughts and beliefs that are getting in the way of our ability to sleep. Okay, so let's start out with some questions. And I have some, I think there's a little bit of ruckus going on because one of the dogs got out. So we'll get that under control in a second. All right, so let's talk about some of these questions. Okay, so number one, it's important to ask yourself, when did my sleep challenges first begin? When did you first begin having sleep challenges? Did it happen a few years ago, a few months ago, a week ago? When did these sleep challenges start? And what circumstances surrounded you at that time? Was your lifestyle different? Were you in a different environment? What were your eating habits like? So maybe you went through a divorce. So think about what specific circumstances surrounded you when you first began your sleep challenge. This is very important because some of you might say, well, I used to sleep well, but all of a sudden I'm not sleeping well. Maybe you realize that you moved to a new place and the sleep environment is not the same as the last one. Maybe you don't have blackout shades. Maybe there's more noise than usual. Maybe the temperature is off, right? So it could be sleep environment. Perhaps you recently went through a divorce, or maybe you went through a loss, and you've been going through a grieving process. And ever since you've been going through that, you haven't reached out or processed fully and thoroughly those emotions around that time, and you started having sleep issues. And so then when those sleep issues arose, you began telling yourself, I can't sleep, I can't sleep, oh my goodness. That then became an anxiety for you, and now all of a sudden you find yourself not sleeping, you believe you can't sleep anymore, and then that gets exacerbated, right? So it's important. Ask yourself, when did the sleep challenge first begin and what were the circumstances in that, number one. Number two, how often are you experiencing these sleep challenges? Are these sleep challenges happening every single night? Or do they happen 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week? And if they're happening just a few days a week, so they're not happening all 7 days a week, what in those particular days is happening? Are you in a specific kind of work shift? For example, are you eating differently? What is happening on those days that you cannot sleep that may be getting in the way, that you're not realizing? Okay? So again, when did the sleep challenge first begin? What were the circumstances around that? And how often are my sleep challenges happening? Okay? That leads us then to what actions and decisions may have led up to the current situation, right? Because every day we are making decisions. We are then having actions that are leading to the circumstances that we're in. So what could that be? What's very interesting is that nutrition is something that may or may not come up. For example, if you see a naturopath, your naturopath may definitely bring up nutrition in your sleep. But if you're going to your primary care physician, they may not necessarily inform you about anti and pro sleep foods. Oftentimes, people are unaware of anti pro sleep foods. Now, you might think, oh, let me go ahead and take something else, right? Chamomile tea. So while those things may help you have to recognize that your body, by the design of nature, is meant to naturally sleep. Your body is designed to sleep naturally. So if we begin to rely on external sources to be able to sleep, we have to ask ourselves, why is that? Now, again, I'm not saying not to use those sources because in every case it's different. Sometimes people may need to use melatonin or they might need to use a specific tea or what have you. Although I'm a huge proponent of let's first get to the root, let's understand what's getting in the way, and let's see if we can relieve ourselves of this dependency of those external sources. Okay? So when it comes to nutrition, there are so many pro-sleep foods that have all the natural vitamins and minerals and chemicals that work within your body to support optimal sleep. But if you're not aware of those, then you might be feeding yourselves what's called anti-sleep foods. Now, also sunshine. I know some of you may be supplementing with vitamin D, and you hear that you're deficient in vitamin D. But sunlight in and of itself, even on a cloudy day, is extremely vital and important to set your biological clock and to support yourself. Also, if you're sedentary, okay, if you're not moving, if you're going, let's say you're waking up, you're going to your car, from your car, you're going to work, you're seated all day, you're going back to your car, you're going back home, and you're seated, okay, and there's not really much movement other than getting back and forth from your travels, that also can be a factor. So the point is that there's a number of factors that can get in the way of your sleep. But what's the most important is to thoroughly evaluate yourself, your circumstances, your health, your lifestyle, to understand what are the things that are getting in the way. Now, as a foundation, the number one thing is you must believe that you have the ability to sleep and that you're designed to sleep. Because if you go into this saying, oh, I can't sleep, I'm never going to sleep, I'm such a poor sleeper, I'm a bad sleeper, I've always been a bad sleeper, it's just not for me, okay? And if that is what you're telling yourself and you identify with being a bad sleeper and not a good sleeper, you're going to find that you're not going to sleep well because your own thoughts are getting in the way of your ability to sleep. But if you commit yourself and you say to yourself, you know what? I can sleep. I'm having a challenge right now, but I know I can sleep. I know I'm designed to sleep. And I'm going to learn what's getting in the way. I'm going to go through a thorough evaluation. I'm going to discover what's getting in the way. And then I'm going to take the actions that I need to take to begin optimally sleeping. Once you thoroughly evaluate your situation and you begin to understand what's getting in the way, then what you're going to do is you're going to take baby steps, okay? You know what happens every year? New Year's, we have the New Year's resolutions and everybody wants to head to the gym and they have these grandiose ideas about how they want to change their life in such a huge way. And so what happens? They give themselves these huge goals and then they start to get into those goals right at the beginning of the year. And within 1 or 2 weeks already, that goal that they wanted to attain, that habit that they wanted to invite in their life begins to drop. Why is that? Because what they're doing is that they're impractically bringing in a resolution that is too big too soon into their life rather than taking baby steps, because it's the way that you're living on a daily basis that is helping you or limiting you in every way. It's how you live your day every day. So, for example, if you recognize that you're having too much caffeine, okay, you're having overstimulating foods, and you've done an evaluation of your nutrition and you realize, wow, I didn't realize that I was having too many anti-sleep foods. And by the way, just for time purposes, what you can do is you can look up anti and pro-sleep foods. So go do a search. Of course, look at the source. You always want to look at the source, not from somebody's blog. Make sure that the source of the search is coming from a reputable source, okay? And look up anti and pro sleep foods, begin to evaluate your nutrition, and then you'll see, oh, wow, okay, these are some foods that have been limiting my ability to sleep, and these are some ones that are helping my sleep. And so what you do is you don't need to change your entire diet around. What you need to do is you say to yourself, what are a couple of food or drink options that I can replace and substitute? Now, one thing I'm going to tell you is the word avoid. So often, your doctor or even a coach will say to you, avoid. Avoid caffeine. Avoid chocolate. Avoid spicy foods. But what you want to do is, rather than avoid, you want to replace and substitute. Why is that? Because psychologically, when someone says to you, avoid, what happens is that naturally you may want to rebel. Okay? So as a result, replace and substitute. What is a healthier option that I can provide myself in this circumstance? What is a healthier option for the coffee? What's a healthier option for the chocolate? And this way, you recognize that you have an option and you're making a healthier option. And that healthier option doesn't have to be limited to something that you find boring or not tasty. It can be actually quite good. Okay? So, you're then going to begin with those baby steps. What are the things in your life that you can enhance, that you can replace for a healthier option? Same goes with movement. If you're quite sedentary, then maybe joining a gym and trying to get there 5 days a week when you've never been there 5 days a week is not necessarily optimal or practical. You might find yourself trying to push for it and then again going off the bandwagon with it. So what do? You say, okay, what can I commit to on a daily basis that is practical for me? Maybe it's, you know what? Before I sit down in my chair to start to work, I'm going to do 10 squats. When I get home, I am going to do 10 squats, all right, or lunges or whatever, okay? Or I'm going to do 10 minutes of a yoga practice. So begin to commit yourself to some practical things that are easy, that are convenient, that you know you can interweave into your day-to-day lifestyle. Then you can build from there. So once your body becomes used to movement, used to having something practical into your space, then at that point you can say, oh, all right, now maybe I can go ahead and take a yoga class. Maybe now I can join the gym, okay? And you can then begin adding those into your day-to-day. You want to be practical and you want to be realistic with the choices that you are making. That's a very important part. So if you have any questions about sleep, anything that you're going through, please let me know. Thank you so much for joining.